Pay attention to him immediately. What's about to happen is more than just a guess. You weren't supposed to see this message in time, but luck was on your side today. There are moments when the air itself feels heavier, as if something unseen has shifted just beyond the edge of ordinary awareness. You may have felt it already today. A subtle unease, a quickening in the chest, the sense that a chapter is closing whether you are ready or not. Archangel Michael steps into that space now, not with thunder, but with a steady, unmistakable presence. His message is simple and direct. The path you are on carries both risk and rare opportunity. The risk comes from forces that have been operating quietly around you. The opportunity arrives only if you remain present long enough to receive what has been prepared. He does not waste words. Someone near you has directed energy that does not serve your growth. It may have looked like concern, loyalty, or shared history, yet the effect has been delay, confusion, and a slow draining of the strength you once took for granted. That influence is no longer hidden. The moment you chose to stay with these words, Michael began severing the cords that kept that energy attached. The work is already underway. Every minute you remain here strengthens the severance and stabilizes the new ground under your feet. What once felt like an invisible weight pressing on your progress is being identified and cut, strand by strand, so that the path ahead can open without the old resistance. Type Amen in the comments if you feel that shift beginning. You have carried silent battles for a long time, wounds no one else could see, disappointments that never received a name, seasons when progress felt blocked for reasons that never quite added up. Those seasons were not random. They were the visible result of interference that kept certain doors closed and certain voices muted. Michael places his hand on the record of your life and begins restoring what was removed. Pages that had been torn out are returned. Momentum that had been slowed begins to rebuild. The sense of being held back starts to loosen. You may notice, even as you read, a small release in the shoulders or a quieter mind. Signs that the restoration is not theoretical, but already moving through the body and the spirit. This is not the time to look away. The protection forming around you is still settling. If you leave before the transmission completes, the alignment that is locking into place can slip. Stay. Let the work finish. The shield Michael is establishing does not appear all at once. It thickens with your attention. Each moment of presence adds another layer of steadiness, making it harder for the old interference to reattach. Something larger than a single blessing is moving toward you. It arrives first as clarity, an unexpected message, a sudden change in circumstance, or a recognition that someone you trusted was never fully aligned with your highest good. That recognition is not meant to wound, it is meant to free. Once the truth stands in the open, the old patterns lose their grip. You are no longer required to carry weight that was never yours. The relief that follows is quiet, but profound. The sudden absence of a pressure you had grown so used to that you almost forgot it was there. Comment, God is great, if you are ready to release what no longer belongs. Michael shows a clear image. Two paths opening ahead. One feels familiar, the relationships, habits, and environments that have kept you in a holding pattern. The other feels quieter at first, almost unfamiliar, yet it carries a steadiness you have not known in years. On the second path, people arrive who strengthen rather than drain. Opportunities surface that match the strength you have been rebuilding in private. The choice is already forming inside you. Remaining present through this message tilts the balance toward the clearer road. You do not have to force the decision. The clarity itself begins to choose for you as the old options lose their pull. Your inner life is changing as well. The exhaustion that once felt permanent begins to lift. Confidence that had gone quiet starts to speak again. You may notice yourself responding differently in conversations, setting boundaries without the old guilt, or simply feeling more solid in your own presence. These are not small adjustments. They are the early signs that the outer world is preparing to match the inner realignment. The voice in your head that used to second-guess every step grows quieter. In its place rises a steadier knowing that does not need to explain itself to anyone. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you stay inside this covering. The next messages will continue the work that begins here. Michael is precise about timing. The interference that delayed your progress is being dismantled now. The person or influence that watched your growth with mixed motives no longer holds the same access. Their capacity to slow what was meant for you is diminishing with every moment you remain aligned. What was postponed is no longer postponed. The first signs will appear in the area of your life that has felt the heaviest, whether that is relationship, provision, direction, or a sense of purpose that had gone dim. Watch for the small evidence first. A conversation that lands differently. A practical solution that arrives without the usual struggle. A sudden ease where there used to be friction. Do not treat this as vague encouragement. Treat it as instruction. The energy around you is unusually receptive today. Small acts of agreement, spoken or written, anchor the shift. Type 777 if you sense the acceleration beginning. A sealed place inside your life is opening. For a long time, the lid stayed closed because the environment was not safe enough to receive what was stored there. Michael places his hand on that seal. Light begins to move through the opening. Chances that once seemed blocked, answers that once stayed hidden, and forward movement that once felt impossible start to become available again. You are not being asked to force anything. You are being asked to stay present while the opening widens. The contents of that sealed place were never lost. They were simply held until the conditions around you could support them. That time has arrived. The relationships around you are also under review. Someone whose presence has created confusion or subtle resistance may begin to step back. At the same time, a different presence, someone whose energy feels steady and life-giving, may enter or become more central. This is not coincidence. It is the natural result of the cords being cut and the new alignment taking hold. Your life is being rearranged toward greater coherence. You may feel a brief emptiness as the old connection loosens, followed by a surprising sense of space and possibility. That space is not emptiness. It is room for what belongs. Like this message, if you are willing to receive the rearrangement, Michael's voice softens but does not lose its firmness. He reminds you that the storms you walked through were never meant to destroy you. They revealed what was true and what was only appearance. The people who left, the plans that collapsed, the doors that closed, all of it served a sorting process. What remains after the sorting is lighter and more accurate. You are not starting over from nothing. You are continuing from a clearer foundation. The pain of those earlier seasons had a purpose. It refined your discernment, so that when the genuine opportunity arrives, you will recognize it without hesitation. Your spirit has been preparing for this exact window. The quiet seasons, the unanswered questions, the private strength you built when no one was watching, all of it was training for the movement that is now underway. You were never lost. You were being readied. Every time you chose to keep going, when no one was encouraging you, every time you refused to abandon the quiet knowing inside you, you were laying the groundwork for the clarity that is now rising. Support the community through the link in the pinned comment if this work has helped you. Every contribution extends the same protection and clarity to others who are still finding their way. The blessing approaching you will not arrive with fanfare. It will feel strangely familiar, as though your soul recognized it before your mind could name it. It may appear as a conversation that changes direction, a practical opportunity that solves a long-standing pressure, or a quiet inner knowing that settles once and for all. Before the outer evidence arrives, you will feel an inner shift. Calm where there was anxiety, certainty where there was second-guessing, a sense of rightness that does not need to argue with itself. That inner signal is the confirmation. When you notice it, do not dismiss it, follow it. It is the same guidance that brought you to these words. It may arrive as a sudden warmth in the chest, a spontaneous sense of relief, or a clear thought that feels more like remembering than inventing. Trust the feeling. It is the first tangible sign that the realignment has moved from the invisible into the lived experience. Comment Amen again if the signal is already present. From this point forward, the momentum increases. What felt stuck begins to move. What felt delayed begins to arrive. The circle of light Michael places around you grows more defined. Inside that circle, the next steps become clearer, the next conversations more honest, the next decisions less burdened by old fear. You are not being asked to become someone new. You are being asked to inhabit the strength that has been forming in you all along. The version of you that emerges from this passage, not a stranger. It is the self that has been waiting beneath the interference, patient and intact. The tragedy that was forming on the horizon has lost its power. The energy that fed it has been interrupted. What remains is space. Space for the blessing that was always intended. Space for relationships that nourish rather than deplete. Space for the version of your life that matches the quiet work you have done in the dark. That space is not empty. It is fertile. It is ready to receive what has been held in reserve until this precise moment. Stay until the end. The final portion of this transmission seals the realignment. Michael stands with you as the last chords fall away and the new path opens fully. You will leave this moment different from how you entered it, not because the words themselves changed you, but because you chose to remain present while the change took place. The choice to stay is itself part of the protection. It signals to the higher order of things that you are ready to walk forward without the old attachments. Type "God is great" one more time as your agreement with what has been set in motion. The days ahead will carry evidence, a lighter feeling in the body, a conversation that arrives at the exact right moment, a practical door that opens without the struggle you expected. You may find yourself pausing and recognizing, this is what the preparation was for. Trust that recognition. It is accurate. The outer world will begin to reflect the inner release. Situations that once felt complicated will simplify. People who once required constant emotional management will either adjust or step aside. In their place, a quieter, more sustainable rhythm will take hold. This message was never random. You were drawn to it because the timing required it. Archangel Michael does not speak for entertainment. He speaks when a threshold is near, and the choice to cross it must be made with open eyes. You have made that choice by remaining here. The protection is active. The cords are cut. The next chapter is already moving toward you. The work that began the moment you stayed is now complete in its first phase. What follows will unfold according to the clarity you have allowed to enter. Subscribe if you have not already, so the covering continues beyond this single transmission. Like the message as a final act of agreement. Share it with those whose path intersects yours, so the same clarity can reach them. You are not the same person who began reading. The weight that clung to you has been named and released. The strength that waited inside you has been called forward. Walk forward from this moment with the quiet confidence of someone who has been seen, protected, and realigned. The tragedy that threatened has been turned aside. The blessing that waited is now free to arrive. And you are ready to meet it, not with striving, but with the settled knowing that what was meant for you can no longer be delayed.